All right, welcome to Beavercreek Rotary, December 10th meeting. I am your host and president, Stephen Brown. I want to thank everyone for coming out today. I'd like to thank our greeters, Alex Zahara and Mike Canada, two past presidents. Eric Marcus for being our ticket master, Mike Swick, Pete Bales, and Mark Weinstein for our great programs. Jim Gundel and Alex Zahara for the website, YouTube. Pete Landrum, who isn't here, it looks like, but for our Zoom, aka Eric, thanks for putting that together. Vinny Jarvie, I'd like to invite you up for the invocation, please.
Would you please join me in prayer? Oh, creator of everything, bless this food for the nourishment and strength for us, for the burdens of service which we gladly shoulder. In your name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Danny. Secretary's report, David Cusack.
Our president has guests.
I do. My old boss, Tom Blevins, came today. So that says a lot about me or a lot about him.
The rest of the guests are with our distinguished speaker, Judge Lewis, so we'll have her introduce them at the time she speaks. We have 24 Rotarians in attendance for a 52.8%. Wow.
All right. Thank you. Sergeant at Arms, Brian Lampton. 0 class.
Thank you very little.
Thank you very little. Underwhelming. Well, our weather today, cloudy, high of 60. Tomorrow, scattered thunderstorms, high 63. And it's going to get sunny and cooler, high on Sunday, 46. As most of you, or all of you probably know, our friend and Greene County Sheriff passed away 3 weeks ago. And we also lost a former Beavercreek Mayor, Greene County Commissioner around that same time, Bob Glazier. So I think Greene County's had enough of that. I saw this somewhere, probably the internet, so it must be true. Kettering Fairmont High School has opened a student-run beauty salon. They have a cosmetology career tech program, and apparently these students need 1,500 hours before they can sit for the state exam. So this will give them time. So if you want to schedule an appointment, apparently they're open for business. And on a side note, I believe there's a bill in the state to reduce those 1,500 hours to 700. I don't think it's passed out of the Senate yet. A 56-year-old Dean Gillespie of Fairborn was officially declared wrongfully imprisoned in the Montgomery County Courthouse. He was quoted as, "I lost 31 best years of my life." So he was wrongfully convicted of raping 3 women. This is straight, I don't know how this works. Maybe the judge can explain it to us. He was wrongly convicted, and then he was released in 2011, okay, exonerated in 2017. So this declaration is just part of the legal process. And so this is no surprise. He's filing a multi-million-dollar civil action lawsuit to recover $40,000 per year of lost wages, attorney's fees, and so forth. So maybe he was looking for that good news so he could turn around and go back to court. All right, this kid, Jack Rico, age 15, is scheduled to graduate with a bachelor's degree from the University of Las Vegas. He will be their youngest graduate. This youngster graduated from Fullerton College at age 13 with 4 associate degrees. And this kid in the article failed the 3rd grade. So he turned himself around. Overachieved much? Okay. All right, NCAA football. Ohio State plays Utah in the Rose Bowl. The Fiesta Bowl features Notre Dame versus Oklahoma State. And of course, we have Michigan playing Georgia and Alabama facing the Bearcats for that first round of those playoffs. The Bengals are 7-5 behind the Ravens. And the Browns, I think, play the Ravens this weekend. They're 6-6. Beavercreek girls basketball, I believe their JV team either has 1 loss or they're still undefeated. The varsity girls team are 3-2. They just lost to Centerville Wednesday night. And another Beavercreek news, they are actively seeking a new varsity football coach. Yes, right? 5 years too late. You didn't hear that from me. Scratch that from the record. Thank you. Yeah.
That was taped.
Thanks. He's a nice guy. He's just not a good. And on this day in history, in 1922, the Canton Bulldogs beat the Toledo Maroons 19-0, and they were declared the first NFL champion. Yeah. The Toledo Maroons. Oh my God, they them. Also on this day in 1898, the Paris Treaty ended the Spanish-American War. In 1920, President Woodrow Wilson was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize for his role in ending World War I. In 1869, Wyoming granted women the right to vote. And in 1967, on this day, Otis Redding died in a plane crash. Oh, and also in 1915, Ford produced its 1 millionth car, 1915. Birthdays of note on this day, Emily Dickinson. She was born in 1830, so that was a little while ago. Scott, you remember. Sorry. An actor, Michael Duncan, and the NFL quarterback, Joe Burrow, has a birthday today. All right, these were everyday products that were actually originally developed for the military. Duct tape. Yeah. The microwave oven. Wonder if they actually meant it. I wonder if it was meant for something else. Super glue. This one makes a lot of sense. GPS. That first satellite went up in '78. I don't know if GPS has been around that long, but that first satellite that was mapping.
Yeah.
Okay. Not Al Gore, but the internet was. This one's interesting. Canned food was apparently started before the military. Synthetic rubber. Virtual reality, I guess those games kids play. And the Roomba, the robot vacuum. I know we're entering the Christmas season, so I saw the top 10 Christmas movies. People voted on them. The top, well, I'm gonna go from I'm starting at the bottom of the list. The Santa Claus, that was with Tim the Toolman, I think. White Christmas, The Muppet Christmas Carol, The Snowman, I don't know that one. Miracle on 34th Street, It's a Wonderful Life, which I think is a little low on the list, and then it gets Love Actually.
Yeah.
That's a Christmas movie. All right. Jim Carrey and the Grinch. The second one was Elf. Okay. And the top one, you want to take a guess?
Die Hard.
I heard it. Home Alone. Yeah. That wasn't on the. Yeah. All right. Okay, some things to ponder. If walking was good for your health, Postman would be immortal. I started out with nothing and I still have most of it. Funny, I don't remember being absent-minded. If all is not lost, then where the hell is it? Funny, I don't remember being absent-minded. Some days you're the top dog and other days you're the fire hydrant. Kids in the back seat cause accidents. Accidents in the back seat cause kids. Funny, I don't remember being absent-minded. It's hard to make a comeback when you haven't been anywhere. I almost had a psychic girlfriend. She left me before we met. 99% of, well, I don't know if I should do that one. We have a nice judge in the house. I'll save it for some other time. It's just Dave. So what is the speed of dark? Hard work pays off in the future. Laziness pays off now. And I intend to live forever. So far, so good. Okay. All right, I do have some fines. If you have been to a beauty salon this month, that'll be $1. If you have coached football ever, that'll be $1. If you're cheering for Michigan, and I don't see him here, that'll be $1. If you have heard of the Toledo Maroons, anybody heard of them? Mike? All right. That's $1. Thank you. If you do not have any duct tape, Shannon will throw you a roll, and I'm sure he's got 15 or 20 of them. If you've never seen the movie Home Alone, the last 10 minutes are hilarious. All right, this was my favorite. It's a Thanksgiving thing, so I'm a little late on that. But I think it was the funniest 3 minutes in all of sitcom shows. That was the turkey drop from WKRP. God is my witness. I love turkeys.
Question, Brian, did you see it the first time it ran on television?
Sure did.
But I've seen it on reruns many times. It is damn funny. Oh man. I didn't see anybody come in late, so if you want to pay that $1 yourself, and I'll pass it on to the collection of Happy Bucks.
Thank you, Brian. I will say that Kettering Cosmetology, that's a pretty neat program. If anyone's interested in signing up, I did send a text message to Mike Canada, so reach out to him.
I run the program.
Happy Bucks.
Dave Kutcher.
Nobody's happy. It's almost Christmas. Shannon, you always got something for me.
Oh, all right. So next week I get to play Santa Claus. It's probably one of my favorite things I get to do all year. For everyone who goes through the Santa Claus experience, understand that every kid has 1 year where they absolutely are horrified of Santa Claus. Every kid has 1 year, but they do get through it. So
Where are you doing that?
it's my wife's family.
Come on, guys. We got the judge here today. Nobody's happy.
I'm actually on my Christmas shopping this time.
There you go. I haven't even started. So. All right. Let's do the ticket drawing. Last four, 9289. 9289. Wow, Shannon didn't win.
That was close.
Nobody won today? 9289.
I got 9249.
Apparently we need to grab another one. You want to grab another ticket, Brian?
All right, how
about 9269?
Oh, there we go. Half our proceeds go to our annual Christmas basket, which is next week. Was he need Queen of
Oh, that was close.
Hot Rose?
Very close.
So announcements real quick. So again, Christmas basket is next week. So Tuesday at 9 a.m. at the Beavercreek Township office. And then of course, Saturday at 8:30 at Dotson Dog. Let's see here. Yes, so real quickly, we're gonna do a vote here. A little bit of history. Prior to COVID, when we were here, we were paying $15 a meal. That includes the room rental, tip, and of course the meal itself. We moved to LMR, as you know, same price, $15. We did get an offer for coolers, and I'm going to propose that starting in January, we move forward with using coolers. So they are $5 more, so it'd be $20. Let's be honest, we went from the golf course food to LMR, and that's not a smash on LMR, but obviously the quality is different. So again, would love to move forward with them, and I'm gonna propose that we do. So by the show of hands, for our members, if you would like to proceed with using coolers starting in January, please raise your hand.
I'll second the vote. Can we vote more than once?
Oh, wow. No, it is, yeah, this is pretty much gonna be it right here, I guess. Anyone opposed? Object? All right, so starting in January, we'll be using coolers now, so awesome. Anything else? Anyone else have any other announcements other than Eric? Perfect, all right. Let's have Sandy Brubaker come up to introduce our great speaker today.
Thank you, and she is a great speaker. First of all, I'll go ahead and introduce some other guests that we have here related to the court. Tashina Levy, she is our Chief Deputy Clerk. And many of you know Mark Brown, former Beavercreek police officer. Now he is our Director of Security at the court. Yep, so we're glad to have him with us today. Okay, so Judge Amy Lewis has over 2 decades of experience working in the Greene County Juvenile Court. She started serving as a magistrate at the court beginning in March of 2000. Because that wasn't enough for her to do in the court, they promoted her to court administrator and chief magistrate. So they gave her another job on top of being magistrate for 6 years, from January 2016 to March of 2021. With those added responsibilities, she wrote lots of grants, secured a whole lot of funding for the court, almost $1 million, probably over $1 million if you add it up over the years. Developed programming to update technology. She introduced a new case management system, brought e-filing to the court. Most recently opened an assessment the intervention center was there, but really we opened an assessment center, combined the two, and I'm sure she's going to tell you more about that. Let's see, all of these require the development and nurturing of community partnerships. And I think every time we talk, she will talk about the importance of community partnerships. You'll hear that over and over. So Governor DeWine appointed her as judge on March 1st of 2021. So just a little background, she graduated from the University of Kentucky in 1989 with a BA in telecommunications. Do you think she always wanted to be an attorney or a judge? No. I find this interesting, that's why I always say it. What did you want to be when you graduated from college?
On ESPN as a
sports broadcaster on ESPN. But since she didn't do that, she decided to become an attorney. Yep, so she chose to attend the Ohio Northern University College of Law, and she graduated from there in 1992. She's very active in the community. She serves as a member on the Supreme Court of Ohio Board on the unauthorized practice of law and on 2 Ohio Judicial Conference committees. She also serves on the Ohio Reclaim Advisory Committee and is a member of 100 Women of Greene County Making a Difference. Just a few other tidbits about her. She's married to Ron Lewis, if you've heard that name. He's our current judge of Xenia Municipal Court and currently running for judge of the 2nd District Court of Appeals. She has 4 children. Her oldest, Mary Adeline, who's the only girl, was recently married in October. Obviously, she loves sports of all kinds. And if you get up early in the morning, sometimes you can, on nice days, or not so nice days, you can see her running in Xenia. She's an avid runner. And she loves animals, particularly dogs. She tolerates my love of cats, although she won't let me have a court cat. We've asked her. But she loves animals. At one time, we were talking one time about COVID, and she said at one time she had 7 dogs in her house during COVID when all of her kids were home. So without further ado, please welcome Judge Amy Lewis.
Thank you all for having me here today. I was looking forward to speaking with you all. In fact, last night when I was preparing to come speak with you, my husband, who's also in Rotary, Xenia Rotary, asked me what I was doing, and I told him. And I said, yes, I was told I need to speak for 30 minutes. And he goes, let me tell you something. He goes, they don't want you talking for 30 minutes. Keep it short. And, all right. I said, but I saw the email. Sandy shared it with me. He goes, no, just take my advice. Don't stand up there for 30 minutes and talk. No one wants to hear you. But I did bring with me a handout I would like for you all to look at. And I think I've made enough copies I can circulate among the tables. It's a juvenile court program service continuum that was put together by our director of our assessment and intervention center, Mike Higgins. And it'll show you our philosophy at juvenile court. Let me tell you, I've been there a long time, and I've been presiding over detention hearings since 2000. And the way we look at cases and families and how we can help these children, it's drastically changed. We have a 32-bed detention facility, and we were always operating at capacity. And on a daily basis, you would hear probation officers walking down the hall, talking to one another about, hey, will you release Tom so I can bring John into the detention facility? And we really had a lot of scared straight tactics that were used with kids. They would be warned, if you don't straighten up, you're coming to detention. If you don't go to school, you're coming to detention. If you don't follow your parents' rules, you might have to go to, a wilderness outdoors camp. And we started doing a lot of research and talking with members from the Ohio Department of Youth Services. And we found out there's so many better ways to work with these kids and families than what we currently were doing. Because we started looking at our data and recidivism rates, and these kids were coming back and on a very frequent basis. So it was through an audit from someone from the Ohio Department of Youth Services that we learned about some new programming. And we looked around at some of the other courts around the state that were really successful. And we started to take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and we put together some new programming. And let me tell you, it's working out great. We used to not keep data at our court, and I know that's hard to believe. And I remember someone at the Department of Youth Services telling me, I don't want anyone to tell me, I feel like this is working out. I feel like what we're doing is right. I don't care what people feel. I want to know what we're doing is working out. So we started collecting data. We designated someone for the sole purpose of looking at our stats and keeping track of what we do. We started working with Case Western Reserve and someone from the university who's helping us keep track of all of our data points and helping us analyze them, because we want to make sure that what we're doing in the community, it's working. And if there's two things I want to come out of today is one, I want you all to walk out of here today feeling like you learned something about the court. You learn enough that you may know someone in your community, your neighborhood, at work that may need some services, and you hear about something today that you can recommend. And then collaboration, Sandy touched upon that. She, in addition to doing our fiscal work, she is responsible for program partnership, because we can't do our jobs without the collaboration of our community partners. In fact, when I received a grant to open up the assessment center, I was told, we're going to give you this money. DYS gave us $300,000, but you need to do a better job of working with your community partners. They have to work with the court and provide something. I was like, sure, I'll do it, absolutely. I had no idea how to do that. But as we move along, I figured that out. It's through groups like yourself that work with the court, and they make what we do possible. For instance, the Xenia Rotary, they provided us with some funding for a greenhouse. And if you come out to our assessment center and you look behind our assessment center, we have this beautiful greenhouse. It's enormous. And year round, we have kids who are growing things in the greenhouse, legal things in the greenhouse. Although we did find a plant, we had to scrutinize, but they donate to the food pantry, One Bistro in Xenia, if any of you are familiar with that restaurant, and they've had a lot of pride with what they're doing. So we're able to teach the kids some real world experience. And also we want them to feel like they're contributing to the community. They're not the problems in the community. In fact, we had a child who was there doing some work in the greenhouse, and his adoption it didn't work out. He ended up being placed in residential treatment. And his wish as he was leaving was, hey, can you take some pictures of my plants and send them to me? I want to see how they're doing. Here he was being removed from his house, and that was really important for him. So I want to go through a little bit of what we're doing and talk about the community partners that we have and how appreciative we are of them. And if you all know of anyone who could partner with us, maybe provide a tutor. It doesn't have to be, hey, can you build us a greenhouse? Maybe someone who can do some tutoring, or who has some real life experiences that they can come and speak with our kids and explain to them that, hey, I had a tough time in life too. Let me tell you how I brought myself out of it and where I am in life right now. So if you look at the continuum, we always want to start off with diversion. We want to do the least restrictive option available for kids first. We don't want to just go straight from 0 to 100, lock a kid up and say, hey, when you get out, if you don't go to school, then you're coming back here, because we saw that it didn't work. So we start off with diversion and our assessment team. Our assessment team is a group of people from around the community that meet on a weekly basis. And we have people from Children's Services, Family Violence Prevention Center, Family and Children First, and they meet with other court staff. And every case that comes into our court, they look at them if it's a misdemeanor case and it's not a case of violence, and they decide the proper route. We have service coordinators who will meet with with families and kids who have been brought before the assessment team, and then they put together these individual plans. And think of how great that is. Any of you raising kids, did you ever have moments with your kids where like, what do I do next? You know, who should I contact? Who will help us out with this problem? Well, we have this assessment team that we have people from many different backgrounds, and they meet together and they decide the best route, and then they help the parents connect with these services in the community. And that's been working out really well. Fortunately, I will tell you, we do have some parents that drive up and they drop them off, their kids off, and they're like, you take care of them. In fact, I think, Mark, didn't you have someone who dropped off a child in the parking lot and security had to come out and try to convince the parents that you need to take your child home with you. You can't just drop your child off permanently with us. So our assessment team, while we prefer to be by appointment only, we sometimes get cases like that where we end up having to call Children's Services, or we try to work with the parents. And we know things are pretty tough at home and it's stressful and you're upset with your child. Why don't you let us help you out? And we're going to put some services in place. So we want to keep kids out of court, but sometimes, you know, the cases, they require more intervention because the parents might not be cooperating, the kids might not be cooperating. So we may make them come back and go through our intervention center, or see one of our truancy interventionists. House Bill 410 changed the way truancy law was viewed in the county. And I'll tell you what, we are very lucky. Our superintendents, school superintendents, amazing. They all got together, and then Judge Tornicio, former juvenile court judge, and I met with them to see how we could work together with House Bill 410 and follow the directives. So the Educational Service Center and our court, they work together. We have a truancy interventionist, and the truancy interventionist meets with these families and the kids to see what sort of barriers are in place, why they're not going to school. Sometimes it's pretty easy. It's a teenager who has a baby and they don't have childcare, and we're able to help them out. Or maybe a child's at home because they're babysitting their other, siblings, and mom has a substance abuse problem, and the child's staying home to take care of the family. We help get services in place for mom. So we try to find the why. That's always what we're trying to do. Why is this happening? So we have a good team of truancy interventionists and our educational service center as well. Now, sometimes we need to have a formal diversion plan put in place, and our diversion officers, again, work with our assessment team to try to put those services in place. And if that doesn't work out, we have a compliance officer who's a bridge between diversion and probation, and she works with the families as well. In fact, she comes to all of our court hearings, and when we, the magistrates and myself, we have court orders, she will help make, these parents after the court hearing put these services in place. Lucas County Juvenile Court is amazing. They have so many services in place, but we don't have anywhere near the funding we would need to put those services in place. We have such a good group of people at our court. They said, okay, we can't afford to create a new position. We're going to divide, this position among ourselves. So our compliance officer comes into court and acts as a family navigator, something every court should have, and connects these parents with all the services that the court orders. Is that my kind of stuff? So sometimes compliance doesn't work, but when we look at our stats, I believe our success rate, I don't know, Sandy, if you have it, it's in the 90s. It's in the mid 90s, I believe. So we're trying to stop kids before they have to put a foot through the door, because all the research shows once a child comes into a court, they put their foot through the front door, they're probably going to be involved again and again and again. So once they come, if that doesn't work out, and we have a child who had diversion complaint, that misdemeanor offense has to come into our court formally, then they come through the formal structure. We don't accept felony offenders through our assessment team and try to work with them informally. Those automatically go straight to the court as well. Now, sometimes though, we have to intervene and we have to place kids in detention. We're a juvenile detention alternative initiative court. There's 18 counties in Ohio, and I thought anyone could be a JDI court, but they're very exclusive about who can be it, because you have to show you have the structure in place to provide all kinds of alternative programming. You have to write a letter, and then the members of the JDI executive committee have to approve you. And we were approved a few years ago to be a JDI court, and that's just not a label that's put in place. There's a lot of requirements. And to prevent these kids from coming to the end of this continuum on the far right, where we put them in detention, or our community correctional facility, which we have, or worse, we put them at the Ohio Department of Youth Services, which, as I tell people, is prison for kids. We put services in place. And to do that, we didn't have any court funds to do any of the new stuff we needed to do. So I went out and wrote some grants, and we were very fortunate to receive these grants from the Supreme Court and from the Department of Youth Services. And I'll put a plug in for UIS with Representative Lampton when you think about funding. But their financial support has allowed us to open up an assessment center. So we have a mental health counselor on site, and then we also have a service coordinator, and they can work together. If a child needs a drug and alcohol assessment, mental health assessment, they can do it right away. I don't know if you all have tried to find services in the community for people with mental health services. It is really tough right now. Just like every other profession, there is a plethora of jobs. No one's taking them. They're not there very long. So mental health services in Greene County for kids, it's tough because there's no continuity. So imagine being a kid who's trying to tell their story where they've had a traumatic event over and over to new people. It's horrible. So we were able to hire someone. We do need funding to hire more because of the number of kids coming through the court, but our assessment center allows that to happen. Our intervention center is an after-school program. It's 4 days a week. Kids come in and they get aggression replacement therapy, drug and alcohol treatment, mental health. We've got that counselor there, but you know what they love more than anything? The meal. They love the meals there. They're hungry. And I made the mistake once. I saw a young woman coming back for probably her third hamburger. It's like, oh my gosh, she must be hungry today. And as soon as I said it, it's like, of course she's hungry. She doesn't have food at home. And she was, because sometimes these kids, the only meals they're getting, they're at school, or, in our case, we have kids who will graduate from the intervention center and they want to come back because they love how they're treated and they love the fact we're feeding them. So we started getting extra boxes, and we'd be like, you know what? I bet your sister or your brother, they would love to try what you had for dinner tonight. Why don't you take this home? And we give it to everyone because we don't want anyone to feel like they're being singled out or they're poor or they can't afford food. And we send food home with the kids every night. So that's been a great thing. Our family engagement mentor, that was another grant I wrote because we need people in the homes to see what's going on, because families can come and sit in an office and tell you everything's great, but when you go into the homes, you really figure out what's going on. You see where all of their barriers are. They may not have utilities. I had a woman once tell me, my kids expect the luxuries in life. Her luxuries it was furniture. And I remember just looking at someone in court thinking, that's a necessity. We all need a couch to sit on, a table to sit down at night and eat a meal with our family. A lot of our families, they don't have that. That's a luxury for them. So the family engagement mentor goes into the house and she is able to identify barriers and try to fix those. Our service coordinator is a former children's services caseworker, and she brings a wealth of information and she kind of directs our assessment team. And we got a basketball court through the Department of Youth Services as well, because kids, a lot of times, if I sit down across from them at a desk, they're not going to talk to me. But if we're outside and we're moving around, you learn more about kids when you're active. So DYS, they gave us funding to have a basketball court. But probation transformation, we had to look at the way we were doing probation, because that was that across the desk sort of thing, or hey, I'm going to come out and see you at school, and then all the teachers know you're on probation and you're labeled a certain type of kid. So with probation transformation, our probation officers, they have identified a real life skills program at Montgomery County Juvenile Court. Use it with kids who are aging out of the foster care system. So they teach them how to write a check, rent an apartment, put together a budget. Okay, you've got $10 for the rest of the week. How are you going to make 10 meals? So that they work more like parents to our kids, and they do a lot of times as a probation officer in the traditional sense. But UIS funded the probation transformation, so we can do that. And then we have we give them certain things that they can provide clean drug screens, they go to school, they make decent grades. And, at first we're like, well, those are just the things we all should be doing anyway. Why would we give someone something for doing something in life that's just a basic thing? But for a lot of these kids, we give them those things, and it changes behavior. And plus we've learned that they have developed some compassion. Like we have movie cards, and kids will say, hey, can I get a movie card for all, all the stuff I've been doing? Because I want to take my little brother to the movies. So we appreciate the compassion that some of these kids develop when they work with us. Now, we also have a community service director. We lost funding for that. So we have community service that's being done in the community. So the probation officers supervise the kids. So if you ever need, if you're a public agency, like at the library, we reached out to them because the library has been phenomenal with us. They've done so much for the court. We said, hey, can our kids come and do anything? Because we'd like to give back to the library and all that they've done. They went out to the library, they'll go to the domestic violence shelter, and they'll, do things in the yard, or they'll clean floors. So if you know of any agencies that need some kids to come and do some work, they really appreciate it. They were at the food pantry this week, and we had 2 kids who were working out of detention. We released them temporarily just so they could do community service. And they received so much praise from the people who work there. They're like, we have a group of adult men that come in here, and you all are much more efficient. And they were very polite to these women who are running it. So we're very appreciative that these kids who are in there for some pretty serious felonies are coming out into the community and doing that community service. I will give another plug for the library. I remember reaching out to Carl Cologne and saying, we want to have a 4-H club, photography club. We don't have any video equipment. We don't have any cameras. He's like, what do you need? Tell me. We'll buy it. You all use it. Whenever you're done with it, just give it back to us. They've let us use space there, and we're getting ready to partner. I believe you're going to be a big part of that with that, to have an art show. And that's going to take place at the end of next semester, where we're opening up an art competition for all kids, middle to high school, which will be great. We're going to have monetary prizes, but This art show will bring together kids from around the community as well. But the library, whenever we call them, they're like, tell us what you need. The county, at the intervention center, we didn't have internet, believe it or not, and they gave us hotspots so the kids could do homework while they were there. Now, some of our community partners, the Family Violence Prevention Center, they provide therapy and classes. It's just invaluable. Like I said, our community schools working with us, they've been amazing, the superintendent. In fact, we have a new program called Handle with Care, and the chief is here at Beavercreek. Let me tell you, they are amazing with this program. Handle with Care is a program where anytime law enforcement comes into contact with a child who's been exposed to a traumatic event, they reach out to a school. And this program is modeled after one in West Virginia. I saw that they were doing this in West Virginia, and the amount of kids that were being reached was pretty amazing. And something I think the state of Ohio, it should be something that they should develop throughout. So we, all of the officers, every single school employee, they're all trained to recognize what a traumatic event is. And then each school district has identified 3 people that the officers are to contact if they come into contact with a child who's been exposed to a traumatic event. Those 3 people at the school, one of them goes and meets with the child the next day the child's at school, kind of talks with them to see what's going on. And then if there's services that need to be put in place, the school counselor sees them on a regular basis. If there's something pretty traumatic going on that needs long-term care, then our court gets involved, and our mental health counselor is going to provide ongoing services. But you know what that does? You know, for the kid whose father was arrested, or they watched a domestic violence, dispute occur between parents. There's a drug lab, meth lab explosion. A lot of times schools never know what's going on. They don't know why that child's sleeping in class or why they're being disruptive. They find out the police were there until late at night, and the child is tired, and maybe it's a good idea to go down to the nurse's office and lay down and take a nap. And in the past, the schools never knew what was going on, and they love this. And I will tell you, when I went around and talked to all the law enforcement agencies, no one even hesitated to get involved. It was pretty amazing. Although this made a lot more additional work for them, because think about it. When you're in the scene of an event, how much paperwork you have to do? It's unbelievable, right? In fact, when I talked to my husband, he used to be a former prosecutor. He said, "Why are you asking law enforcement to put yet one more thing on their plate? When they come to the scene of a crime, they already have so much." But they were great, and they went through the training. And the number of referrals that Beavercreek makes to the school system, it's pretty impressive. So think about all those kids that were never seen before, and now they're being seen by school officials. Family and Children First, they find ways for our kids to go to summer camp. They provide parenting classes as well. Greene County Job and Family First, they help youth with employment placement, getting GED as well. I will tell you, the director of Children's Services, Beth Rubin, if you don't know her, she's an amazing person. Right now, I don't even think half of the caseworker positions are filled. That's yet another job in the community. So if you know anyone who's a college graduate who's looking for a job and wants to work out for a social service agency, they're in desperate need right now. Now, Central State University, they provide someone from their extension office to work with our kids to do projects at the intervention center. And it's pretty nice because they help us with 4-H projects. And Green Giving has been great. Ed Meriden, he has assisted us with setting up a fund. When 100 Women gave us, it was about $12,000 to help out with our greenhouse, we were able to put that in Green Giving, and then Xenia Rotary gave us more money so we could buy plants and items for the greenhouse. Our CASA program is amazing. Anyone who's interested in being a CASA, they have literally saved the court millions of dollars over the years. In fact, we have other courts that contact us to ask us about our program. These are volunteers from the community who go through extensive training, and they're GALs, guardian ad litems, who advocate on behalf of children. And I want to say that they've served over 3,000 children in the community since the inception of the program. So that's yet another way that the programming that we have helps community members. I will tell you, the Mental Health and Recovery Board, Dr. Greta Mayer, she's pretty impressive. She provides prevention services to the court and funding. And in fact, when we had Handle with Care, she came out to me and said, "Hey, how can we help? What kind of funding can we give you? We want to make sure that this program is prevalent around the county." So I want you to look at all these programs. Because we really can't expect for kids or families to get better if we just say, hey, be better, do better, or I'm gonna lock you up. We have to give you the tools to do it. And the advice we've been given is treat every kid that comes through the court as my kid. If this was my kid, what would I do? You're talking about playing Santa for your wife's family. Think about a lot of these kids that don't have presents, for the holidays. The parents, we have some parents who will buy presents and then they take them back to get the money back from the return. Think about your kids and what you give your kids. And a lot of these kids, they don't have anywhere near what you may have provided. And I'm talking about the basics: food on the table, electricity, clothes, shoes that actually fit. So we're trying to get to the whys of why these kids are doing what they are doing, because we can't expect people to get better if we don't. And through this JDAI and the funding through the assessment center, the intervention center, we've been able, I feel like in the last couple of years, to do a really great job. We've hit the jackpot when it comes to personnel at juvenile court, just like the table that's sitting over here. Tashina worked in Montgomery County Juvenile Court and decided she wanted to go to law school. And after she graduated from law school, she had some pretty hefty salary, offers. And I approached her and said, hey, we can't meet those salary demands, but you've got such a great background with juvenile court, you're a lawyer, you come work for us. And she said, absolutely. She wants a career working with families. Sandy has this amazing background too with counseling, and she does so much for the court, and she is really good at connecting the community to court services. And everyone loves Mark. Who doesn't love Mark? So, and he's been wonderful too, real supportive of programs. When we have things happen, we had that school shooting, and every time there's a school shooting across the United States, I can tell you in juvenile court, we always have kids that come into detention. I don't want to call them copycats, but kids start saying things at school and we have to take it seriously, and they come in, but we can go to Mark and say, hey, we did put together a threat assessment for these kids. Can you give us some advice? Where do we go from here? So I hope I gave you enough information today about our programs. If you want to know more, call me at the court. I'd love to talk about it. I love talking about juvenile court. We have great people there. We want to help our community. So if you have anything that you need to know, let me know. But also, if you can connect us with people who'd like to work with us, who can provide services. We have an executive team that is going to meet quarterly and try to connect services from the community to the kids that we work with. Any questions? Yes.
So was there anything that you noticed that, in the court as a direct result of schools being shut down and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Kids have lost a year. And truancy, I don't think the truant officers knew how to address the truancies, because most of the kids were on Zoom. And if they were like one of my kids who was on Zoom with his screen off, he was in the kitchen making bread, and I had to tell him, hey, you're in school, put your screen back on, stop making bread, and act like you're listening. Yes, kids they're having some difficulties, because you think about all these working parents. So we had not really a way to track kids or enforce school attendance for that year, because it was something new for them. Who would have thought a pandemic would have come? So yeah, kids, there were a lot of issues with kids not appearing via Zoom or going to school, and the school's telling us that the kids are having a hard time trying to catch up. They tell us in the summer months, if your kid doesn't read and keep up, think about how they get behind, and then think about a whole school year now. So yeah, a lot of changes.
Kind of a follow-up to that. What kind of issues did you have with parents who had to go to work and left younger children at home alone because they couldn't afford childcare and all the other stuff?
We had parents like that, and I had them in court for truancy issues, and they just expected their kids to log on. I'm like, your child is in 4th grade. They're not going to just log on, and they don't understand the material without you helping them. So that was a problem as well. I remember thinking to myself, I'm so fortunate I don't have young kids. I don't know what I would have done during the pandemic, but I also recognize the importance of making sure that people are safe and we don't spread, this virus. And it was just a bad time because it was so new, something no one would have predicted. But yeah, it was tough because a lot of parents came into court for failure to send their kids to school. And that was a huge issue. It's a misdemeanor in the 4th degree, which means those parents can go to jail for that. Yes, sir.
An observation. Judge Coots, when he was juvenile judge over in Montgomery County, and Art Fisher used to take me over to the juvenile center. I was county commissioner over there at the time. And the observation they made is when it was Mother's Day, these guys were busy making cards and all kinds of things for their mom. When it was Father's Day, very little of anything took place because many of them had no fathers or multiple fathers, they told me.
Yeah, that's an interesting observation. Well, at least they were making the cards because I've seen this in court. These kids will come from these abusive homes and they always want to go back home every single time. And I used to think to myself, why would you want to go back into that environment? They're always trying to make it right. They think, what did I do wrong? Why did my parent act that way? Maybe if I go back this time, things will be good. So yeah, those kids, they never give up with their parents. Any other questions? Did I make it less than 30?
You have 10 more minutes.
Really? You're like, all right, well, thank y'all.
Yeah, thanks again for coming today. Love hearing more about the courts and everything you guys do in the community. Definitely one of the most important aspects of the community. Obviously, because it deals with kids, but there are, like you were saying, the majority of them are having issues at home. So our motto changes every year, but it's service to change lives, and obviously you guys are doing that. So thank you. Also, I believe Sandy had we had some community service people come out for our Flag for Heroes program, and that was really neat. They were shy at first, and I think maybe they were a little anxious about how, I don't know, we were going to be with them, but we had a great time and they opened up to us. So we'd love to see more of that.
Yeah, anytime you all need volunteers, I remember Judge Cornicia was big about the Popcorn Festival. You can have kids come out and work that, so.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Per our tradition here at Beavercreek Rotary, Rotary is big about literacy. We donate a book to the Greene County Library. Beth picked it out, and I think it's perfect. What makes a hero? So I'm going to have you and your staff sign it, and then this will be at the Greene County Library. Anything else for the good of the club? Perfect. So let's stand for the pledge. Judge, you want to lead us?
Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Very good.